The Mystery Country. I wish to state to you, my dear readers, that Ethiopia is a country of great contrasts, largely unexplored, and is populated by black people whose attitude towards this so-called Western civilization has not changed within the last 6,000 years. The people are Christians while retaining primitive customs. The result is that the black people of Ethiopia are extraordinarily blended into a refined fashion that cannot be met with in any other part of the world. In 1930, the Duke of Gloucester undertook one of the most interesting duties he had been called upon to execute up to this date. The occasion was the coronation of His Majesty, Rastafari, the King of Kings, and Lord of Lords, the conquering Lion of Judah, the elect of God, and the light of the world. The Duke was to represent his father, the Anglo-Saxon king. The Duke handed to His Majesty Rastafari, the King of Kings, and Lord of Lords, a scepter of solid gold 27 inches long, which had been taken from the hands of Ethiopia some 1,000 years ago. The Duke fell down on bending knees before His Majesty Rastafari, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and spoke in a loud voice and said, "Master, my father has sent me to represent him so. He is unable to come, and he said that he will serve you to the end, Master." See Psalm 72, 9-11 verses. Also see General 49 chap. 10 verse. On one side of the scepter was inscribed, "Ethiopia shall make her hands reach unto God," and on the other side, "The King of Kings of Ethiopia." The top of the shaft was finished with a seal, and above was a clen cross, in which a single carbuncle was set. The scepter was a magnificent piece of workmanship, and had been designed from an historic piece in which the special ceremonies of His Royal Highness of Ethiopia, Earth's rightful ruler. The Duke also handed to Queen Omega, the Empress of Ethiopia, a scepter of gold and ivory. The shaft is in the form of a spray of lilies, and at the top a spray of lilies in bloom. It was a brilliant ceremony. The church began to be filled. The Ethiopians were brilliant in special robes, having discarded their precious white robes, and wore jewels of great value. The men's swords were being heavily ornamented with gems. On their heads they wore gold-braided hats, in which the covered lions' manes were to be seen. In contraction, then, were the solar notes struck by the women who were heavily veiled and wore heavy cloaks. His and Her Majesty King Alpha and Queen Omega, the King of Kings, drove to the cathedral in a coach drawn by 6 white Arab horses. Queen Omega in a robe of silver, and the escort on mules wearing lion skin over their shoulders, forming into procession outside the cathedral. King Rastafari and Queen Omega, the royal pair, the Ascon and a line of bishops and priests entered the guest rank obstance. King Alpha, sitting on his throne, homage was done to him by the bishops and priests fulfilling the 21st Psalm. The ceremony took 10 days from the 2nd day to the 11th day of November 1930. King Alpha was presented with the orb spurs and spears and many other mighty emblems of his high office. Dignitaries of the world power presented King Alpha with the wealth of oceans. The emperor attended to most of his preparations for the reception of his thousands of guests himself, and day after day could be seen rushing about in his scarlet car, seeing how the white laborers were getting on with the new road. He had ordered that the lawns he had laid down be attended to, and that the extension of the electric lights throughout the city were being hurried on.